What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and today is a big day in the Revit community, and that's because Revit 2023 has finally been released. Yeah, you can download it today. So I think this is really exciting, and I'm going to be sharing with you all of the new features. Well, not all of them, there's quite a bit of them, but I'm going to be sharing most of or a lot of the new features, let's say a lot, of all of the new features that are available with this latest version. I'm going to be giving you kind of a quick tutorial of what's new. So as I said, there are a tons of new features, and I wouldn't say that any of them are kind of like visually like, okay, this is a big visual thing, but I think overall there is a lot of little things that make your life a lot easier. So depending on what you're doing, some of these are going to really improve your workflow. So I think that the changes are kind of quite impressive, kind of in a very subtle way. So for this video, I'm first going to give you kind of my overview, my top 5 of all of the top 5 features that I think are going to improve my personal workflow, I guess. And then I'm going to be just jumping into Revit, showing you all of those features and showing you the rest, as many as I can. I'm going to try to filter down the list to things that people are going to find most interesting. So I'm just going to give you an overview of all of those, and it's going to be a long video because there are a lot of new improvements that I would like to cover. Now, before we jump into that video, I would just like to ask you to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com. I'm going to include the link to it just below in this video in the description, and then also up in the cards above. There you can find all of my courses. If you're learning Revit, it's definitely the best place to go because I have many different courses that cover many different topics at different skill levels. So there is something there for everybody. And right now I want to mention that I am going to be updating my beginner to intermediate level course to include the kind of the changes with the latest version of Revit. And also something to mention, we do have a plugin on the website. It's a kind of a automating cabinetry plugin for generating or creating cabinetry in Revit. That has been updated as well, so it is going to work with this latest version of Revit. So you can get it there, and it will work with the latest version. And of course, I'm going to be updating the templates as well to be available in the Revit 2023 version 2. Okay, so with that out of the way, now let's get started with my top 5 features for Revit 2023. So the first feature is measuring in 3D. Yeah, now we can measure things in 3D. So this was something that was kind of long awaited, and finally with the latest version we can measure things in 3D. Then we have a change that's going to be, for example, it's going to be the first thing that you see, and that's a change to the project browser, where you're going to have these icons in the project browser that light up in blue when the view is placed on a sheet. So and when you look at the project browser, you can immediately see which views have been placed on the sheet or sheets, and which ones have not been placed on sheets. So it's kind of like a little checkbox. It's just white or blue depending on if the view is placed. So I think that's a cool improvement. Then we have an option to duplicate a material, but also duplicate its assets. So this isn't like a new thing. This was available before, but it was always annoying because it took kind of multiple steps. So you would forget to duplicate the assets, and then when you duplicate a material, you would mess up kind of the original one. So with this, it's kind of just one click to do both actions, and I think it's going to kind of improve the workflow because you're not going to mess things up as much. Also, another change where, well, it's the kind of the same thing but it's easier to do, is pick a plane option. So when you want to pick a work plane, usually you would have to go through a menu. Now there's just a button, so you click on that and then you can pick a plane. I think that's a nice improvement as well. And then also we have enabled cutting in views for multiple new categories, things like furniture systems, plumbing fixtures, specialty equipment, as well as CAD imports and links. So this basically means for some families like furniture, before, when you would cut a section through some furniture, Revit wouldn't really cut through it. It would show you in that section, it would just show you like the elevation view. It wouldn't cut. So now we have a checkbox inside of the family itself, and then if we check that on, we can cut through that family or link. So I think it's a really useful feature, and I like the fact that it's a checkbox, so you can turn it on and off depending on what you want to do. So anyways, those are kind of the top 5 features that I like. And also something to mention, it's not really like a new tool, but it is really important, and that's performance improvement. There have been kind of many things that have been done for performance improvement. I think there's like 20 or more things that kind of improve the performance of your models. It's going to speed things up a lot, so I think that's also quite impressive. So if you were annoyed that Revit was slow, well, now it's going to be faster. Okay, now I think it's enough talking. Now it's time to jump into new Revit 2023. So let's go. And here we are. So let me start off. As I said, the most kind of first thing that you see is in the project browser. Here you will see that we have a change in terms of these little icons. You can see the blue ones are placed on sheets, and then the white ones are not. So if I go here, and this is a sheet, for example, if I come here and take this 3D view, and if I want to place it anywhere, okay, it's a big 3D view. Anyways, if I place it here, you will see now it highlights in blue, meaning that it's placed on a sheet. If I select it, and then if I delete it, it's no longer placed on a sheet. So that's the project browser. Okay, now let's actually open up that 3D view, and let me show you the 3D measure. So now when you go here to the measure tool, you can do that in 3D, and then you can measure like that, or wherever you can. You can measure in 3D. You can measure down, you can measure off to the side, you can measure wherever you want. So I really like this improvement. Then let's talk about duplicating materials. So if I go here to the Manage tab, then I'm just going to go here to Materials, and let's give it a second to open it up. Okay, so here in the materials, if you want to duplicate any of these, you can just right click, and then here you have an option to duplicate material and its assets, or duplicate using shared assets. So usually it just said duplicate, and what it did is it duplicated using shared assets. Now we have this option where we can duplicate both the material and the assets, so when you make changes to that material, it's not going to mess up the asset itself or kind of mess up the original material. So I think that's a big improvement where you don't mess things up. Okay, then let's go to pick a work plane. So for example, if you want to do whatever, you can go here to work plane. Here you can see we have this pick a work plane option, which we can click, and then we can pick a work plane. However, now we have here pick a work plane, so we can just come in here, pick a work plane, and then we can click, and also we have a shortcut for that. So PK is now the shortcut for pick a plane. Perhaps that was available before, I don't know, but now we have an actual button. And now let's move over to cutting in views. So for example here, or let's start a new project for that actually. So new project, let's go architectural template. So if you place a family, and let me place just this desk for example, and if I were to cut a section through that desk, like so, there we go. So even though it's cutting through the desk, we can see kind of the faces of these drawers. So obviously it's not cutting through the desk, it's just kind of giving us the elevation view. With this latest release, when I select this and go to the family editor, so when I want to edit the desk family, here I have one of the parameters here is enable cutting in views. So if I check this on, okay, and then if I load this back into the project and close, okay, I don't want to save these changes, but anyways, when I override this, as you can see now, it's going to be cutting through the desk. So that's an option. You do have to check it on. It's not going to do automatically for the families, so just keep that in mind. But there we go. That's how we can cut through desks. Also, while we're talking about families, let's mention something else that's a really good new option. And again, I have to open up the family. So here, if I go to the Annotate tab, you will see, and let's open up one of the plan views, for example. Ground floor, there we go. Here we used to have only the masking region as an option, but now we have a filled region. So we can add filled regions in kind of plan views for your families, which I think it's a really good new addition to the family editor. Okay, so let's now finally close this family. Okay, now let's move forward. Let's go back to our sample project, and here we have a new option when it comes to placing views on your sheets. So here, for example, if I select any of these views, what you'll see is here we have the positioning and view. So Revit really gives us an option here to select the positioning of this view, and then also to select the view. So we can actually exchange the view. So for example, if you don't want this rendering, you can just click on the other one. Okay, so we cannot place it because it's not available, because it's already placed. So let's find something that's not placed, like the north elevation. So if I click here, it's just going to exchange that for that north elevation. So we can kind of exchange those views here. Now, in addition to that, you have this positioning. So what this does is basically it asks you, do you want to use kind of the viewport center, so the kind of the center of your project, or do you want to use the view origin? So basically those are kind of the two options, and depending on which you choose, it's going to place things a little bit different or when you change the views. So now it's a little bit up, I guess, or so you do have that option. But the main thing is now you can exchange views here. So when you place a wrong view on the sheet, you don't have to delete that view and then go and place a new view there. You can just select it and then exchange it for a different one. I think it's going to make editing your sheets a lot quicker. Next we have a new button. So for example, if let me go perhaps to the new project. So here what you'll see is here we have a new button. It's called Activate Controls and Dimensions, and it's made to enable or disable the visibility of pins, constraints, temporary dimensions, things like that when you're selecting multiple elements. As you can see, it makes most sense when you have things like a curtain wall. So let me go here to the wall, place a storefront curtain wall. So if you remember, when you make a big cross selection, it might give you all of the pins. So now you actually have to kind of activate that, or you have the option to kind of turn that on and off, which I think it's a good addition. So it basically works like thin lines. You can toggle it on and off, and it's available here on the quick access toolbar. So that's nice as well. So now we can just turn it off if we don't want to see those pins and constraints when we select elements. Okay, now let's talk about one of the performance updates. So as I said, there were many performance updates, and the one performance update that you can actually kind of affect yourself, and you can kind of choose, do you want to have that performance update, has to do with the rewind feature. So when you're moving around in your views, sometimes you might want to go back to the kind of the latest position, or the last position, or one of the previous positions in which you were, like the camera positioning, and sometimes you cannot get the exact position. So to help out with this, here we have the steering wheel, and let's actually open up the full navigation steering wheel like that. There we go, and here we have this rewind function. So if I click on rewind, as you can see, when I go back, it's just going to show me these little arrows, and it's going to kind of bring things back. Now this is because I have actually disabled the thumbnails here for the performance update. So what this basically means that here, instead of these arrows, before you would see thumbnails of each view. So that can be useful, and perhaps it might not be useful depending on what your kind of attitude is. But now you have the option to turn that off, and actually by default it's turned on. It's here in the file options, and it's under steering wheels, and here we have the option to, let's see, save snapshots of current views. So we can turn, as you can see, you can turn this off for better performance. By default, it's going to be turned on. I turned it off when I was testing it. So anyways, here, if I just now kind of play around with the position, let's zoom in, let's look around, whatever. And now when I go to rewind, see the last three have little thumbnails, whereas the previous one only had arrows. And basically Revit doesn't have to save these images, so that's why it's a little bit quicker. So that's the kind of the performance update on that front. So just something to keep in mind. Next, we have the option to displace views, or kind of additional options when it comes to displaced views. So if you don't know, you do, or perhaps you don't know, I don't know, you have this option, displace elements. So what this allows you to do, if you select this, you can kind of move elements around, and then you can create kind of diagrams of the whole kind of construction of the building. Then you can reset that. Now the issue was with the previous ones is that you could not tag these elements. Now if you want to tag this element, you can actually do it. So I think you have to lock the view, and when you lock the view, if you go to annotate, if you go to tag by category, yeah, as you can see, you will be able to tag this window if you want. So that's the update on that. And also, when it comes to displacing views, you now have the option to do that in 2D views. So it was only available in 3D views, and that kind of makes sense because you're most likely going to displace 3D views, but in some cases you might want to displace 2D views as well, and now you have that option. So I can come in here, and as you can see, this is still available, and I can select that, and then I can displace this window in the 2D view as well. So that's just some additional functionality that we have. After that, we have new filter abilities. So for example, if I go here to view and then go into filters, when it comes to creating filters for walls, so let me just create a new filter, make sure that the category is set to walls. Here now you have the ability to filter by base constraint and base offset, as well as the top constraint and top offset. So those are kind of the new parameters which you can use in order to filter the walls. Also, now let's talk quickly about massing inside. So for example, let me open up the project that we have here, for example. Okay. Let's open up the site plan, and let's create a quick topo surface. So if I go here to topo surface, and then I can place a few points here, then let's go to 6,000 millimeters, for example, place a few points here, and then let's go down to 0 and place a few points here. So before, when you had a topo surface such as this one, when you would create a label contours, basically those contours, let me make them bigger, there we go, those contours would essentially go from 0 up to 6,000 facing this direction, and then they would flip and face the other direction on the way down, so it would be upside down, and this was really annoying. So luckily with the new version, these tend to stay properly oriented, the label contours. Might not sound like a big change, but if you were working on site projects and in landscape architecture, this was really annoying. So luckily this is fixed now. Let's now go back to our original project here, I think, or this sample project. Where's one of the floor plans? Okay, so sometimes when the room is too small, this room tag might not fit, and then you would have an issue where it wouldn't really be readable because of the walls and everything. So now you do have the ability to move it to the outside, but you do have to turn on the leader line, and then you can move this room tag to the outside of the room. Now it still might give you issues if you click OK here, and then as you can see, even though this is turned on, it still doesn't seem to be working correctly, but I think it's due to the position of this leader. Okay, so now when we move the leader inside of the room, and now you can see that it's just going to be displaying that room tag. So you can place the room tag there, and then you can have like the leader pointing to the room. Obviously in this case not that important, but when you have a small room and you want to display this large room tag, it makes a lot of sense to have this ability with that leader to move the tag outside of the room. Okay, now let's talk about modify sub-elements. So if I move back to this project, we can perhaps delete this, and then let's create a quick small floor. So I'm just going to create a floor like this, and then if I go to modify sub-elements, I can add a point here. For example, you can see the point is now actually a point. It used to be like a little square, now there are points, so that's a change. And then you can make some modifications like this. Now when you make the modification, now you have the ability, if you go back to modify sub-elements, if you select one of the basically these lines where basically the roof kind of or the floor breaks in order to accommodate this change, now you can turn this into a split line. So you don't have to actually place a split line, you can just select one of these kind of lines where where it's basically at an angle, and then you can just click here on convert lines, and then it turns that into a split line. So that's the change there. Now let's talk about the fun one, which is a new feature called Solar Studies, or it's actually called Interactive Solar Studies. So what this allows you to do, and let me just turn on the shadows here, and let's place a few more elements such as walls. Just a few more walls, there we go. So what this feature allows you to do is you go here to the little sun icon, you can turn the sun path on. There we go. So this is the sun path. Then you can open up the solar study, and now you can create solar studies. So here you can set up the speed, the sunlight intensity, the shadow intensity of this study. Now the sunlight intensity really only matters, I think, when you're going with the realistic view mode. So when we switch this to realistic, let's see. Now the sunlight intensity kind of changes, well, the intensity of the sunlight. But anyways, let's go back to hidden line, and now you can make still images. You can make lighting study types. You can create a single day lighting study. So now when you play that, as you can see, okay, this is a bad in session lighting. Let's try this. There we go. So it's just going to kind of generate that solar study. And then you can kind of play that to see what that looks like. You can slow it down if you want, so it goes slower, and there we go. So that's the solar study. We have some additional tools here and so on. So I think this is quite cool, and if you want a separate video on generating solar studies in Revit, let me know and I will make that video. Now there is also a nice improvement in terms of groups. So let me just turn this off right now. Okay. Escape out of that. Okay, so when you create a group like this, so I'm just going to select these few items, turn them into a group, and now you will see that here we get the common properties for this group. Also, when you go into edit type, you will get kind of those basic common properties for the groups. So I think this is really useful to have those properties. Before we did not have them, but now we do. So we just have more functionality when it comes to groups. Okay, then let's talk about PDFs. So if I go here to the quick access toolbar, you will see that now by default we have the PDF kind of export option button, and here when you go to select multiple sheets, so let's go here and edit this, and let's say I want to have multiple sheets like so, or multiple views. Here I have the ability to set the print order. So now here I can say, okay, I want this one to be first, then I want this elevation, then I want this reflected ceiling plan. So I can play around with the order. Also, you can sort it by browser organization, sheet number, or you can do it manually like I did over here. So that's another cool option that you can do. Next, for view references, so for example, if you want to place a view reference somewhere, so let's go here to, I don't know, site plan, view, let's see, view reference. If you want to place a view reference, now here you can search for both types of plans or view types, and then you can search here for kind of view names. So if I type in 1, it's going to give me the ones with the 1 in the name. So this might seem insignificant, but imagine on big projects where you have tons of views, it can be really difficult to try to kind of scroll down and find the view. So here you can just search for it and it's a lot quicker. Okay, moving forward, something that I find really impressive has to do with schedules when it comes to concrete or reinforced concrete. So if I go here to structure and place a beam, do we have a concrete beam? No, we don't. So let me go here. I think I have a different project that I can use for that. So let's see. Okay, so I have this quick project where I have some rebar. This was just something I was doing for kind of presentation purposes. But let's say I want to create a schedule for this beam. So what I can do is I can go here to the View tab. I can go to Schedules, Schedule Quantities, and let's create a structural framing schedule. So here, one of the options that we have, let me see here, family and type. So one of the options that we have here is rebar cover. So we can add rebar cover, both the regular kind of overall rebar cover, or we can go bottom face, other faces, top face, and so on. So I think this is a really useful addition where you can add these fields to your schedules. I was always annoyed that we don't have rebar cover for schedules. I thought that was something important, so why not have the ability to schedule that? And well, now we do have that ability, so I really like that. Now another thing when it comes to these the structural part of Revit is the ability to basically create structural walls that are non-bearing walls. So what this means is let me go here to the 3D view. Okay, let's delete these walls. So let's place a new wall here, just a regular wall. This is a structural wall. Let's place an architectural wall. So far, when you place a wall like this, if it's a regular architectural wall, so that means that structural here is unchecked, by default it was a non-bearing wall. That makes sense. But if you want to turn it structural, you didn't have the ability to make it non-bearing. Now you do have that ability. Now you might be thinking, well, why would I want that? Well, in some cases you want to categorize the wall as a non-bearing wall, but you still want to have the ability to place rebar in that wall. Now if this was not a structural wall, we don't have the ability to place rebar. So now you can place a rebar in a non-bearing wall. I think that's kind of the point of this. It's not the fact that you have a non-bearing wall that's structural, it's the ability to place rebar in a non-bearing wall. So I think this is another really good improvement when it comes to structure in Revit. And finally, as kind of a last thing, this isn't something that's going to be affecting me so much because I use the metric system, but if you use the imperial system, and now if I go to units, so let's go to manage, project units. Which one of these are project units? There we go. Now if you want to set this to inches or perhaps feet and fractional inches, no, inches, let me see here. So inches, there we go. So for the symbol you can place the inch symbol, but you can also just place IN for inch. So this is just a change when it comes to the symbol, where you can turn it off, on. You can set it up however you want it to be set up. Also something just to mention here quickly is the connection automation. Now this is something that I might want to dedicate a whole video to, because it seems like an interesting new tool. It seems to make the kind of the generation of connections a lot easier than it was before. So I'm going to leave this for kind of a separate separate video, so I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but it is a significant change that we have. Also, we have the ability to use joint geometry for some additional categories, so some categories that previously weren't able to be joined or used with the joint geometry tool. Now we do have that ability, so that's cool as well. So there we go. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit long and a little bit of everything, so it might be a bit hard to follow, but yeah, there is a lot of changes, but they are small changes, so it's a little bit difficult to present them all in like a continuous way, so you have to kind of jump from one to the other, but yeah, those are the ones that were kind of most interesting to me. Tell me in the comment section below, please. Do you find these interesting? Do you think these new features are good, or perhaps you're like, come on, Autodesk, give us something more. We want more. So I really want to hear your opinion on this. Some of these I really think that they're going to improve my workflow. Other ones I don't really care for. I think that's how most people feel when it comes to all of these updates. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll be back in a few days with another Balkan Architect tutorial. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.